This has been a great night to be a Detroit Pistons fan. What an incredible draft night by Troy Weaver. We'll talk about all the moves that were made in draft night on today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On to be the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. Listen, man. I'm recording this right after the Pistons made their 36th selection pick, and it sounds like the beat writers have said that they are done for the night. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the recording. If anything else happens while I'm recording, I'll sure to update it as we're going along. But so far, man, and if it is indeed over, which it looks like it is, this has been an absolutely great night to be a Detroit Pistons fan. This has been tremendous. This was a great draft night by Troy Weaver. He deserves a ton of credit. And we'll get into why I have feelings and thoughts on going so many different directions based on what happened tonight. I'll try to keep them as organized as possible for you. But out the gate, the Pistons selected Jaden Ivey at number 5. The Sacramento Kings did go on to take Keegan Murray at 4, so they didn't end up trading the pick. They were able to get a value a trade that they liked value-wise. So they took their guy at 4, which we had been talking about on the podcast was probably going to happen. Pistons ended up getting their guy in Jaden Ivey. Seems like that was the plan all along, and Troy Weaver did a masterclass of making sure that could happen. So he gets Jaden Ivey. We talked about on the podcast for I think like the past week and a half or so, that Jalen Duren was a possible target if the Pistons were able to get back into the mid-round of the first round, and they did that in a much better way than we could even thought have. And we'll talk about how that all happened later on. But he was able to get Jalen Duren for not much. And he walked away with his top 2 guys in the NBA draft. This was, I can't put into words just how much credit I want to give Troy Weaver and how happy Pistons fans should feel right now. I think everyone's freaking out. I've seen national people across NBA coverage outside Detroit saying that the Detroit Pistons destroyed this draft. They clearly won this draft. They walked away heavy winners. This was a great night. And I want to start with why this was such a great night. We'll eventually talk about, obviously, Jaden Ivey as a player later on, possibly in a future podcast, maybe the next one. And Jalen Duren, obviously, just a simple prospect as a player. But I want to talk about why these moves were just excellent. So getting Jaden Ivey at 5 was excellent simply because he was probably the best prospect on the board. He was the best prospect on the board. He wanted to come to Detroit. He's going to be a great player for the Pistons. He feels a need for the Pistons at the off-guard position. He feels a need in athleticism that they've lacked, someone who can be an explosive athlete for them. And that's something that the Pistons have lacked for a very long time. And now they finally have that. And they did it again with Jalen Duren. But number 5, that was a home run pick. Some guys had Jaden Ivey going much higher than that, like at 3. I saw our very own Rafael Barlow had him number 2 in his big board. So Jaden Ivey, slam dunk of a pick. He was crying because he came to Detroit. He was happy to be drafted by Detroit. He said that he wanted to come to Detroit all along. So that was just a home run of a pick. We'll talk about a little bit more about it later. But the Jalen Duren pick is really what was the home run tonight. That right there solidified how great of a night this was. Let me let you guys know how this happened. The Pistons traded the 25 pick from Milwaukee that they got in the Jeremy Grant trade to New York. Charlotte traded the 13th pick, which they drafted with Jalen Duren, to New York, and then New York traded Duren to the Pistons for the 25 pick. And then Charlotte got 4 second-round picks from the New York Knicks. So, and then also, I forgot to say, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. The Pistons got Kemba Walker in return, who's on a $9 million expiring contract. and he's already working with the buyout with the Pistons. He will not be on the Pistons. They will be buying him out. So in short, let me just show you guys what this was. Essentially, this means that Troy Weaver turned Jeremy Grant into Jalen Duren at number 13, a second-round swap going from 46 to 36 with the Portland Trail Blazers, an expiring contract in Kemba Walker at $9 million, and free cap space. I told you guys when he made that Jeremy Grant trade that you had to wait to see what he did after that, what he did with the cap space to see if this was going to be a good trade or if this was going to be a bad trade. I'm telling you right now, as of the night of the 23rd, this was an absolute home run by Troy Weaver. I told you guys for a while that I thought Jeremy Grant was worth a mid-round selection. I didn't think he was worth 7. Didn't think he was worth top 10. I thought maybe a mid-round selection. They ended up getting that in 13. But not only did they get that, we thought, and we talked about on the podcast, that if they were able to get 13, it would cost them getting Gordon Hayward's $30 million contract for the next 2 years. We thought that's the contract they had to take on. Instead of doing that, Troy Weaver did a long, planned-out puzzle piece, and it's a drawn-out plan that took a while to come together, but he eventually got it. He eventually was able to get Duren, not without getting Hayward's $30 million contract, but to get an expiring $9 million contract. So not only is it a $21 million contract for this year and then it's over, really it's a $51 million difference because Gordon Hayward would have been owed $30 million the next year where Kemba Walker's gone. So he was able to get him for a $21 million difference, a pick swap, and they've still maintained cap space. If my math is correct, they were at $56 million. After the draft selections, and if you add on to the $9 million they're going to be buying out, they still have $39 million, which means that cap, the Pistons still freed up $3 million in cap space after the Jeremy Grant trade, if you want to consider all of this a part of Jeremy Grant's trade. They still freed up $3 million, plus got the pick that they wanted, and were able to maneuver this to a point where they didn't have to take on the huge contract from Gordon Hayward. They were able to do it for just a $9 million contract from Kemba Walker. $21 million difference. Troy Weaver absolutely knocked it out of the park. You guys know I'm not afraid to criticize Troy Weaver. I'm not afraid to criticize a Piston player or a head coach for the Pistons. I'm not afraid to be critical. He deserves all the credit in the world right now. I'll give it up to him. This was a tremendous draft night by the Detroit Pistons. And again, mainly because of how he was able to maneuver this Jeremy Grant trade to get exactly what he wanted still without having to eat that big of a contract from Gordon Hayward. When the report came through that the Pistons got Duren from the Charlotte Hornets at 13, I was like, oh, Gordon Hayward's a Piston. We just have to wait to see the details come out. And when it found out Kemba Walker, $9 million instead of 30, $21 million difference, you still have $39 million to work with, if my math's correct, in free agency. If you still want to go after Aiden, you can. If you want to go after someone else, you can. You can take up more big contracts for picks. You still have that same flexibility while still getting another mid-round pick. This was tremendous. This was just it was great. There's no other. I can't find another way to say that for you guys. Troy Weaver deserves a ton of credit for what he did on draft night. Obviously, with Jaden Ivey, he's going to be a great player for the Detroit Pistons. Everyone's going to be ecstatic to see him play for the Pistons, especially in the summer league. I can't wait for that. But really, guys, how he was able to get Duren, I can't say enough good things about it. I was so incredibly impressed how he was able to do that from a long-winded type of the long game kind of play he did. He had to have known this all along was a possibility. That's why he got it done last night with Jane, or two nights ago when you guys listened to it, but the day before draft with Jeremy Grant. Clap it up for Troy Weaver. Now, he still has to go on. That doesn't mean he can just fail everything else. He still has to do the right things in free agency and moving forward this offseason. But so far, great stuff by Troy Weaver, man. Great stuff. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about draft night, what had been done in draft night, what that means moving forward. If that gives us any outlook on what's going to happen in free agency for the Pistons or moving forward. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Arcade 1UP. We have big news. The one, the only, NBA Jam is back. Arcade 1UP, the leader in at-home retro arcade games, is not only bringing the best game ever back, but they've made it bigger than ever before with, wait for it, a Shaq Edition machine. Jump clear across the court and set the ball on fire. And one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams. No fouls, no free throws, and no quarters required. Compete with friends and family through an all-new Wi-Fi leaderboard, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number one, up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1-Up is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee and one of my favorites growing up, Mortal Kombat, and many others starting at just $399. Check this out. They are giving away an NBA JAM Shaq edition to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade, the number one, up.com/lockedon. You've got till July 8th to enter to win an NBA JAM Shaq edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? With Arcade 1-Up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast on our way to 3,000 subscribers. Continuing to show Locked On, we're the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. Now, if you guys missed out, yesterday we went live right after the Pistons. I believe it was after the pick for Duren. We went live officially right before the second round started. We went on for about 30 minutes or so. If you guys want to go watch that back and see what was talked about in there. You guys showed up and showed out in there. I couldn't believe it, how many people showed up in there, and you guys were gassing me up. You guys were just, you guys are incredible, man. All of you guys who've supported the channel and supported the podcast, the numbers that we're doing over the last year and a half since I took over, it's just been incredible. I appreciate all you guys for real. I really do. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. But let's get right back into the stuff about the draft, though. Throughout the podcast, this is going to be one of those ones when you guys are tweeting at me and commenting saying, "Koo, how many times are you going to say tremendous? Koo, how many times are you going to compliment Troy Weaver?" Because I have to. I absolutely have to. There's nothing else I can say about the night outside of the fact that Troy Weaver did an absolutely incredible job on draft night. So I guess I kind of want to save a future episode to talk about Ivey and Duren, simple as prospects and potential players moving forward, what they'll do in the future. I kind of want to dedicate full episodes to that. I want to talk about the potential highs, potential lows, and a happy medium, and all that. I want to talk about all that specifically in their own episode. So I don't really want to hit that right here. What I want to talk about right now in this second segment is, did this give any idea to what the Pistons will do moving forward? So let's go down the list, because you guys asked me a lot of these kind of things in the live last night when I was recording, or when I went live on the YouTube channel right after the second pick they made. So we'll go down and we'll knock them all out. So DeAndre Ayton. Will the Pistons still go after DeAndre Ayton? Yes, I think they still will be interested in DeAndre Ayton. I still think that they're going to try to get him. However, there's now two new things. One, I'm going to start with this one. One, they have a cushion in case they don't get DeAndre Ayton, which there's a bunch of conflicting reports. For me right now, as of the 23rd, I think Phoenix might match anything. I don't think they're going to just let him walk. And I think they know that if they just match and then wait a few months, they can trade him for whatever they want, instead of being tied to whatever the team he signs the offer sheet with, having to make a sign trade with that team if it's BS or whatever. I think they know that, and I think they're going to take the chance with that instead. So the Pistons still could get Ayton, but I think that's becoming more of a likelihood as I think about it more. Either way, I still think they're going to go after Ayton, but now they have a safety net. They have a cushion. So if they don't get him, they have either Duren or Stu starting, and then whichever one isn't starting, backing them up. They're set there. They don't need DeAndre Ayton. They can get DeAndre Ayton, but they don't need him. If they don't get him, they'll feel fine still moving forward into the season. And secondly, I think that says if they do get Ayton, and it is a sign and trade, I know we talked about a few times in the podcast over the last few episodes, which one of the young guys will be included in a sign and trade if it happens. Will it be Killian or will it be Stu? And I could see both routes. After the draft, though, I think it all but confirms that if they do get a sign and trade and they do ask for one of the young guys, I think this confirms that it will be Stu, if that happens. Now, I think that's the case because, again, if they get DeAndre Ayton, it's going to be a crowded front court room. One of the guys aren't going to be able to play. So I think if they ask for one of these guys, it's going to have to be Stu, simply because he's the odd man out and you're getting DeAndre Ayton. So if they do execute a sign and trade for DeAndre Ayton, they pull that off, I think this has answered which one of the young guys between Killian or Stu will be the one included. And I think it's going to be Stu if it pulls it off. That's one. That's knocking DeAndre Ayton's part off. Let's go ahead and knock him down. Now we got Miles Bridges. Will the Pistons go after Miles Bridges now? No, I do not get the sense that they are incredibly interested in Miles Bridges right now. Now, that could change. It could happen. But as of right now, I don't get the sense that they're incredibly interested in him or interested in giving him that kind of contract. I get why you guys are wondering that now, because he kind of, if you look at it, he fits the roster now. He fits the starting lineup now. They got their center, whether it's Stu or Duren. I'm low-key really interested in seeing Duren start. I think he would be incredible with Caden pick and rolls. Oh, my God. I'm just foaming out the mouth thinking about it. But I think if you look at the roster, I see why you guys would think it would be a great fit now more than DeAndre Ayton. You got Cade, Ivy, Sadiq, and then you can slot Bridges right there at 4. And then you have Duren at center. And then off the bench, you can have Killian, whoever the off guard is. You got Isaiah Livers, Bagley, and Stu. I completely get why you guys are thinking that this is that Bridges would make incredible sense right now. I get it. However, I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're interested in getting Miles Bridges at that type of contract. I think they know that Charlotte's interested in trying to free up cap space to get Miles Bridges, so it doesn't sound like they're really going to let him go. So I think all those things going against that, I don't think they're going to be going after Miles Bridges. So I'm going to end it right there. If they do go after Miles Bridges, I'd be shocked. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think that the only person left they could still get is still the same guy before is DeAndre Ayton, except now I think they're probably feeling a little bit more comfortable that, you know what, we don't have to get Ayton. You know, if he doesn't, we're not going to. Actually, I don't want to say this part. I kind of want to say it at the end. I'll go ahead and just say it now. And this will be a hint to what we're going to talk about in the final segment. Is that they now should probably feel like, hey, we're going to offer the max to Ayton, the 4-year max. If they say no and they try matching it and say they want to do a sign and trade, we can just tell them to kick rocks. We're fine. We don't want to give up any of our young assets now. We feel pretty comfortable. We're not going to give up assets for him. If we have to, we're comfortable just walking away and letting him go back to Phoenix. And that's where we're going to go with the third segment. But I still want to keep going with, knocking down some of the questions you guys said or asked me about what happens next. So DeAndre Ayton, talked about him. Miles Bridges, talked about him. Is there any other guys? Does this take out the off guards of possibly being signed? I think so. I think it takes out I think they're already out of the running for Jalen Brunson. I think that eliminates Colin Sexton from being chased after. Who's another one? I think maybe Gary Harris. We talked about Gary Harris. I think Gary Harris would be interesting coming off the bench next to Killian. But I think that probably takes him out a little bit. I don't think they're going to be targeting an off guard worth a ton of money in free agency now. I think they feel pretty set with Jaden Ivey now. So I don't think that's going to be the case. I think in free agency, and again, we're going to talk about this a little bit now in the third segment. However, I think they probably feel more comfortable now just going into the season presently constructed and just giving this team another year to grow together as a young core with a new and improved young core and give this young core another chance to grow together with better and new young players. I think that would be incredibly fun. I think a lot of fans would have a lot of fun with it, whether it translated to 30, 35, 40, 20, 28 wins. I think a lot of fans would have a ton of fun with that, with now Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, along with everybody else. I think that would be incredibly fun. I think fans would like it. Again, probably next episode, or the next 2 episodes, we're going to go dive in to Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, give them their own episodes. Because I want, again, like I said earlier, we'll do that. But again, this is just a tremendous win for Troy Weaver tonight. Jaden Ivey was the best prospect available at 5 for him. He was some people had him as high as 2 on their big boards. He's going to be an incredible player for the Detroit Pistons. He wants to be in Detroit. I'm extremely excited about watching him play for Detroit. Seeing how happy he was to be in Detroit and get drafted by Detroit really made me become an even bigger fan of his now. And being able to get Duren, man, for what he got him for and get his 2 guys, what sounds like and what has been rumored to be his top 2 guys, to be able to get them for what he did, tremendous win. Those guys are going to be big for the future of the Pistons. They're going to be big for next season. And I think they're going to be big in changing the kind of play the Pistons have. Last year, I don't want to say it's not like they had zero athleticism, but they definitely lacked it. And now going to the next season, they got Jaden Ivey and Duren, who are both freak athletes, and I think it will be great. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for next year. I'm excited for Summer League. Heck, I'm excited for that. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Troy Weaver, you did a fantastic job. Give it up to you, man. give it up to Troy Weaver. When we come back, I want to talk about what I kind of hinted at just now. Does this say what the Pistons are going to rock into next year? Should they be okay with rocking into next year with this young core and just not add any big contracts? Don't add a big piece. Just continue to grow organically with these guys. Should they do that now? We'll talk about that when we come back from the ad break. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, man, Ohtani is crazy. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. And if you head over to their website, again, you'll see that they have more than just, the most popular sports, baseball, basketball, boxing, football. They got golf, they got hockey, they got horse racing, martial arts, soccer, the World Cup, tennis. So again, head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. You guys get all of that jazz. I'd really appreciate it. All right, so the final thing I want to talk about with my immediate takeaways from the draft night. And again, like I said, we're going to be giving these two guys their own draft episode. I'm going to probably have some guests on. We're going to talk about their fit with the Pistons moving forward in next week's episode, Monday and Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. But I want to talk about this right quick because this was an immediate reaction that I had. Do the Detroit Pistons just go into next year with this young core now? Don't add any big pieces? Don't add any big free agents in free agency? Just go in and grow organically? I'm not going to lie. I think they should. I think they should consider that. And at the very least, if they want to add a player, sure. But I have now moved to the position. And yes, for those of you guys who may be wondering, I'll feel this way even about Isaiah Stewart. I don't think the Pistons should even entertain trading a single person of their young core. That goes Cade, Sadiq, Jaden Ivey, Duren, Stu, and Killian. They shouldn't think about trading any of those guys. They should all be on the roster next year, no matter what. And this is why. The Pistons have a new and improved young core. They had a young core before, but now they have more pieces to it that will bring more athleticism, bring more talent, and the future is looking so bright by just looking at those 6 guys. Yes, you need to add guys to them at some point. You're going to add veterans. You're going to add win-now pieces at some point. That's not now. These guys are all young. They're all below the age of 23. They're all young. They all can grow together. They already started growing together last year. Now you've added new guys to the scenario. You've added new guys to the team. Let them come into this season and continue to grow organically together. It's going to be so much fun to see a bunch of young guys, all these young guys out there together, growing together, learning the game together, developing together, getting the chance to full-on develop together. I think that has to be the plan moving forward for this upcoming season. And whether that translates to 25 wins, 30 wins, 35 wins, heck, 40 wins, however many wins that translates to, so be it. But I think at this point now, after being able to add Ivy and Duren to a young core of Cade coming into the second season, and Sadiq, Stu, and Killian coming into their third season, I don't think you move any of these guys and you just walk into the season with all of them together. Because why? Why give up on these guys? Why give up on any of them? And again, you guys know I'm not the biggest on Isaiah Stewart, but he still can prove me wrong. He could prove me wrong. He's young enough to do it. And they're all under 23 years old. They have a new infusion of talent from in the young core. Allow these guys to all grow together. See if they can all be a part of the young core. Why give up on them right now? Why? Why give up on any one of them at age 20, at age 21, when you walk into a season that's going to be a development season anyways, and you just got 2 new guys that could help they could help each other bring each other up this whole season. They could develop together. Again, whether it translates to 25, 30, 35, 40, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They have a nice young core. they have a decent chunk of a young core. They have 6 players that you can call. They have that core right there. And none of those guys should be given up on yet. Really, I don't think they'd give up on, obviously, Cade's not going nowhere. They're not going to give up on Sadiq. Sadiq's been good. And they're not giving up on these 2 guys they just drafted. So it's really just about Killian and Stu. And you guys know I really like Killian. You guys know I'm not as big on Stu. But even Stu, no way you trade him. No way you giving him up. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to give up on these guys now heading into this season. Let them all play through this season. Let them all develop and see if they all are going to be a legitimate part of the young core. And then guess what? If they all prove that this year, which hopefully they do, it would be amazing if they did. If those 6 guys prove, hey, we are pieces to your young core, guess what? The Pistons could just kick the cap space down one more year into a heavier free agency class and go try to get somebody next year. Why not? That would be perfectly fine to do. Or they could take on another contract and get even more picks in next year's draft to add on to that already strong young core they have now. I think that's the play now. Now, if they want to add DeAndre Ayton, I'm for it. He's 23 years old. However, I've now moved to the position that after this draft, after seeing how Troy Weaver was able to add to the young core with 2 legitimate pieces, I now want to see these 6 guys grow together. I want to see these 6 guys get this next season completely, start to end together, and see if these 6 guys can stay together as the part of the young core, and then you can just add on to those 6. I'm not in the business of trading anybody for DeAndre Ayton in a sign trade in free agency. If they want to trade Kelly Olynyk, cool. Go ahead, take him. You want to take Kelly Olynyk and Hamidou? Go ahead, take him. You want to take Kelly Olynyk and Kojo? Go ahead, take him. But those 6 guys, to me, those 6 guys are part of that young core. Cade, Ivey, Sadiq, Duren, Killian, Stu. Those 6 guys should be locked. They should not be moved. They should be 100% on the roster next year. All of them having legit roles on the team and chances to prove that they are legitimate parts of that young core. And if the Pistons have gotten a 6-player young core like this, all below the age of 23, majority of them being 20 and 21, with cap space potentially next year if they kick it down the line, or adding even more picks to bring onto that young core in next year's draft, Detroit's going to be scary. We're going to be scary in 24. In 24, 25, it's going to be a scary team. It will be a scary sight for the NBA. The Pistons are coming. They got 3 guys. I think Ivey, or obviously Cade, Ivey, and Sadiq, I think those guys are going to be confirmed. I think those guys are legit. Duren, I think he's going to be legit. Killian and Stu are the 2 ones I think that still need to prove that they can be legitimate parts of the core, but I want to give them this whole season to prove that. And I think they can. I think they possibly will. And again, Stu, I think, can prove that can be a high-level quality backup this season. I think Killian could prove to be a high-quality backup for them, possibly a 6-man. Maybe Killian it proves that he's more than a 6-man this season. You guys know I'm really high on Killian and his potential. Maybe he shows that he's worth being a starter. Then if he proves that, then you can flip him next year. Another team would love to have him if you don't want to, if you don't think you can give him enough minutes, or you don't think he's going to be happy in his role, which I don't think would be the case if he took that kind of leap. But if it was, then you can flip him next season for way more value if he takes a big step. It just all makes way too much sense that if these guys take another step, you either A, have a legit 6-man young core, or those 2 guys, the ones who take big steps, if you don't think, okay, they took big steps, but I don't think they're part of the young core moving forward, we want to kind of flip them for assets, you're getting way, way more for them a year from now if they take a big step than they are right now. So again, that's where I'm at right now. I think those 6 guys should be a lock, untouchables, to return next season and play the entire season together, because if they prove that those 6 are legitimate young core, Detroit's going to be nasty. We'll be nasty in a few years. Give it 2 years. Give it 2 years. Give it one more draft class after this, next year's draft class and next year's free agency. We're going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Give these guys a chance this year. They're going to be fun. I promise you guys, these 6 guys, they're going to be fun next year. They're going to play hard. They're going to play fast. They're going to all improve together. It's going to be incredible to see a homegrown talent like that. That's the best ones too. The ones you homegrown. If you can grow all 6 of these guys to be part of your young core on a contending team in the future, I'm telling you, man, I'm ecstatic. I'm excited. I think you guys can hear it in my voice. I'm so excited. I think Detroit's coming now. I think we're on our way. Cade should be. Aston already tweeted it out. Cade was ecstatic after the draft night. He should be. He should be. He got a legitimate young core around him that has a chance to be legit. And national people are talking about it already. This is going to be a fun season in Detroit. Whether it means 25, 30, 35, 40 wins, it doesn't matter. At any one of those wins, it's going to be a fun year, and they have a chance to prove at any one of those win totals that these 6 guys, they're it. They're it, and you just got to add to them moving forward. I'm ecstatic, man. I'm so happy. This was a great night by Troy Weaver, man. Give him a ton of credit. He did a tremendous job. Amazing, amazing night for a Detroit Pistons fan. I'm going to stop it right there because I'm going to keep rambling about how happy I am and different reasons why I'm happy. Well, trust me, we have the rest of the offseason to talk about how happy I am and all the reasons why. But we'll start that on next Monday. Be ready to tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun the rest of the week heading into free agency. It's going to be a ton of fun. And then free agency starts and it gets crazy then too. So fun time to be a Detroit Piston fan. We're on our way. Detroit's on its way back up. Be ready. That's a warning to the national media, to all the other sports teams. Be ready. We're on our way. Detroit's on its way back up. We're on our way. That's all I've got for you guys today, though. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast on our way to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On to be the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren added to a legitimate young core. This is going to be fun. Cade, Ivey, Sadiq, Duren, Killian, Stu, Bagley possibly coming back, Livers. This is going to be a fun team. Whether how many games they win, we're going to have fun. And this could be a legit piece of the future right here. We're coming back, man. I'll see you guys on Monday's episode. I'm really tired. I've been working all night during this draft. I'm tired as hell. So I'll see you guys on Monday. Stay safe out there. Great time to be a Pistons fan. Enjoy this. Talk all the trash you want. I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out, everybody, and go Pistons.